Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Emotional Eating with Marilyn. Today, I have a special guest, Hind. Today, we're going to talk about how to go from an automatic mode to a conscious well-being. And I really thought it would be useful to have a guest that has a different perspective than mine. And I'm joined today with Hind, as I mentioned. Hind Frata, you're a CEO and founder of the Shiftogether. You offer career advice and team leadership coaching. And you have spent over 18 years in marketing and branding space in Paris, Zurich, and Barcelona. What I found is that through your journey, you have discovered the power of getting out of the automatic mode to achieve well-being in all areas of our life. And most importantly, what I love about you is that you're a human that has been through difficult times like all of us, and you bring this vulnerability with you. So welcome, Hind.
Thank you very much, Marilyn, for inviting me to your podcast.
It's honestly, it's such a pleasure. And as I mentioned, I really wanted to talk about the automatic mode. I think listeners will really connect with that, whether in terms of emotional eating or outside emotional eating. Many of people that listen to my podcast tell me when I eat, it's not even me. It's like as if I'm possessed. So this will really resonate with them. And I was wondering from your perspective, how do you see that this automatic mode shows and manifests in our day-to-day life?
Well, this is one of the biggest, I would say, from my perspective, concerns for this century. Basically, I believe that capitalism and digitalization, especially since the 2000 approximately, with the emerging of internet, we have progressively digitalized our world. So initially it started with hardware, software, but it ended. So initially it was digitalization is a great facilitator, but actually it ended also in our day-to-day life. So the way we live, the way we eat, the way we create connections with people. So by itself, it's a facilitator, and I have nothing against it. But there's a counterpart of this digitalization, which is for me, this hyper connection and this automatization of our way of living is actually creating a dissociation between our real needs and what we end doing. And basically the manifestation of that is that you can observe around you when you go in the streets, when you go in a restaurant, when you go to, when you observe people in the bus, basically everywhere people are just looking at their phones, they're completely in their bubble, and we end taking decisions pressing green buttons in our phones. So we order food through our phones, and we can see that since the pandemic, especially the younger generation, they're looking for this easy way of living, which is basically pressing a button, you can date someone, pressing a button, you can buy food, pressing a button, you can take an appointment with a doctor, which is fantastic. But on the other side, if we are just using technology to live in an automatic mode, that means that we are completely driven by it, and we are starting to be unconscious and disconnected and not having access anymore, because it becomes an unconscious automatic behavior. And this is where the danger is. So I believe that technology, digitalization is a great facilitator as far as we also develop consciousness and connection with ourselves beside this automatic mode. So the problem is that today, most people, and I would say majorly children, are suffering from that because they were born with it. So we got it as adults, at Generation X and millennials, we got it later in the second part of our lives. But children has it since 6 months. You see children connected to an iPhone or a tablet, it's just amazing how the automatic mode also goes very fast from parents to children. So that means that, I mean, unconscious parent will definitely generate unconscious children. So my thought here is that we still have one generation or two generations, which is the baby boomers and Gen X, that still have the power and the consciousness that they've lived like both ways, without the technology and with the technology. And even if in the past 20 years, they've been going through this automatization and automatic mode, they know what it means not being and what's the benefits of combining like what they were before with what they are today. Our children, the youngest generation, Gen Z, they don't have these criteria. So our role as baby boomers, Gen X, and the late millennials that have this balance somehow, or can have it from the experience, not only from a concept, but really because they experienced it. We have a responsibility, for me, a society responsibility, a collective responsibility, individual and collective, to generate that balance between the automatic and the conscious mode.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel it's really interesting. And for example, when I talk to my clients and to people on the podcast of how to recharge yourself, I often tell them, don't use Instagram, don't use, your screens or whatever to reboost your energy, because for me, and what I've noticed in many people, is that it drains your energy even more. And sometimes I think, oh, it's people are going to think I'm like crazy asking them to go to the park instead of, walking, instead of scrolling. And if I go is one step further, why is it important in terms of emotional eating? I feel when you don't have energy, you're drained. This is when you're going to use food to feel better. So really understanding when we're in automatic mode, what do we do? How do we unconsciously try to feel better with things that will drain us? It really affects emotional eating. And what I've realized is that many of us, myself included, is that sometimes we don't even know we're in automatic mode. So can you give us examples of how this mode manifests in day-to-day life? And maybe the listeners will say, okay, maybe this small thing, next time I'll remember it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the automatic mode is, I would say today, the most present, definitely. And it starts with like, we wake up in the morning, we jump from the bed, we go to the shower. So that's okay, because that's the routine. But then immediately some people go for breakfast, and because they've been eating cereals or biscuits for 10 years, they just don't even question. So they just keep doing the same stuff without questioning, is it good for me? Is it adapted to me? Do I feel I need that? So examples. Yesterday, I was in a session with a client, and she was telling me, I changed recently my way of eating. That's a real example. She said, I used to eat like fast stuff in the morning. So basically cereals, biscuits, cakes. So easy and high carb, basically. Now she said, oh, I got aware that I can't. This is very bad for me. I'm 45 and I need to be much more conscious about what I'm shopping in the groceries. So being conscious means that you look at something and you ask yourself, do I want it? Is it good for me? It's not jumping into it. Same thing, she was giving me the examples, so real examples. She used to use the car for anything, like 1 kilometer close to her place. And she became aware that she would reach the same place walking, and that's healthier for her. But that's required to stop. So that client had to do a burnout and lose her job and decide to stop, because she had to stop, to analyze what was happening, what happened to her. She was on an automatic mode that she ended losing every sign of discernment. She was just like robotized. Like when your life starts to be robotized, that you don't think about how you don't check with yourself, is it good for me? Do I want it? Do I feel I want it? That means you are in automatic mode. So anyone that feels that no questioning at all, just doing things the same way as 2 years ago, should be questioning, asking themselves questions, conscious questions. It doesn't require a long time. It just requires to stop and reflect. And sometimes it's just about asking us powerful questions for 30 seconds, just coming back. So it had a lot to do with coming back to being present and disconnected from the phone. Because this exercise, you can't do it having the phone, eating. So people that are doing something in a meeting or on the phone and eating at the same time, that's emotional eating because they're not present to appreciate what they're doing.
Well, that's so interesting. I have so many things to unpack. Okay, I made a few notes. The first thing I really like how you say the moment we wake up, we're in automatic mode. You said that someone jumps in the shower, but also I've seen people that first thing they do is either they check their WhatsApp or either they check their phone to see if they slept well. So we're more and more, and we all do it. It's not to judge anyone because I'm not saying I'm like I'm so perfect. No, not at all. But we're more and more using the outside to try to understand how the inside is feeling, which, as you say, is like you dissociate from yourself almost. I really like the thought, the point of questioning yourself or like questioning your behavior and your habits. I'm thinking of those people listening that have like, let's say, young kids, a busy life, they have to work and everything. Questioning things like the habits will require a lot of energy, and maybe listening to this might scare them. What would you say? Would you say my first answer would be question one thing a day, but maybe not. But what would be your take on that?
Well, first for me, checking with yourself is less energy than being on a phone or doing, because you're on the being and not on the doing, not on action. So everything that will make you enter inside and check with yourself, how do I feel, in my head? How do I feel, in my heart? How do I breathe? Just observing yourself. This is relaxing already. And parents have a crucial role. We are role models for our children. So if we don't do it, it's lost forever in our society and civilization, because the world will go more and more into automatic mode due to technology and digitalization and AI and gaming and many more to come that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So Yuval Noah Harari, that I really appreciate, and I read all his books, says that the danger of this is to become slaves, actually, and dehumanize robots, which is actually where we're going to. AI is not meant to be just generative AI. The end goal of AI and what scientists and neuroscientists are working for AI is to end analyzing not only our visible behavior, but also our inner emotional, psychological behavior. And Yuval Noah Harari gives an example that I found so amazing. He says, we know that in 5 years from now, a teenager that is 15 years old will probably discover his sexual orientation on social media before he knows or she knows himself or herself. Why? Because the AI integrated into social media, which already started this year actually, will be able, depending on your face expressions, on your interests in terms of contents, on your connections in your social media, to design profiles. So profiling is a great tool. Now profiling is based on data, more behavior data, but it was going to be completed by emotional and behavior data. When we reach that, that means that yeah, people will discover that. Like you will enter, you will discover. I mean, technology will be able to read better on you than yourself.
Yeah.
So this is where, for me, there's a problem, because if we delegate who we are to social media, gaming, apps, first we lose our freedom, and we need to be aware of it, because they have access to all our data and all these platforms, and I have them, and I use them for the for positive sakes, actually. But I'm also, cautious on like questioning and observing. For instance, social media work in terms of giving you the kind of content that has a high affinity with you. So that means that you will only receive the same thing you're thinking in this moment. That means that you don't have access almost anymore. You don't develop curiosity, and you don't open your mind, because you just receive the same thing you believe and your interests. So that's limiting us and limiting our vision in life. And so we just need to be aware of what's the upsides and what's the downsides. So I'm not saying that it's negative 100%, absolutely not. I believe that technology is an enabler. And I also believe that having some routines automatized is okay, because that means that it's less energy. So for instance, if you have the automatized, gesture to wash your teeth after every meal, that's a fantastic automatic mode. It depends on the automatic mode. So it's not black and white.
It's like the book, what is it? The Habit. There's a book on habits. I forgot the name. Everyone read it. Basically saying that you have to change you can replace a negative habit by a positive one, and then
Yeah, you should question.
Yeah.
You should question, is this habit still okay for me? I'll give you another example. I see many people, close people, friends, and family around me that drinks its cup of coffee almost with closed eyes in the morning, and already says in advance, I need to have my coffee at early morning, and then I'm starting thinking. So this is an automatic mode. I
Yeah, I'm
don't
like
believe
this.
it's
I'm
real.
just
I
like
don't
this.
believe, because if you believe it, if you say, this is the story you tell yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, you will need 5, 6 cups of coffee a day. So each time you will feel a drop of energy. If you say to yourself, wow, I feel tired, now I need a boost, I will go for a Coke or I will go for a coffee. Then you will have many of these. So there are alternatives, but it always takes this little time of asking ourselves the
Few
question of,
milliseconds.
yeah, is it good for me? I would say basically 2 questions. Is it good for me? And do I want it?
And the do I want it is such a powerful question, because we often do things we don't like just because they've been modeled.
Yes.
So not even thinking.
Yeah, because maybe, to take an example, like taking as an example food, because food, it's true that it has an emotional component on top of a physical need. So on our behavior to eating, we moved from a more like nutritive need, like prehistorically, into today an automatic mode. Like you see many people, I mean, eating stuff that is not neither good for us, and sometimes you don't even want, I mean, you're not hungry, you're just taking it because probably it's feeling an emptiness inside. So that's the emotional part of the automatic mode. That's the automatic mode has to do also with an inner existential emptiness that we cover with automatic addictions. Social media, for example, tobacco, alcoholism, gaming, compulsive eating, compulsive shopping have to do with this automatic mode that is linked to an emptiness, because I don't feel psychologically and emotionally aligned, I'm actually compensating it with this compulsiveness through some addictions. So addiction, the addiction definition is compulsiveness. It's an automatic mode. It's unconscious. That means that automatic means that we are starting to have unconscious behaviors and patterns. So some of them are good for us. That's why I'm saying, is it good for me? Like brushing our teeth and showing that to our children, it's very good. Drinking 2 liters of water a day, whatever you're thirsty, you can drink water. No risk. It can only be good for you. Walking 1 hour a day, whenever you feel you want to move, it's good to have this automatized mode. But there are so many other things that require a desautomatization and moving from automatic to manual mode.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of my own experience now with food. I've told a little bit about myself in the podcast, but for those that don't know, so I've done in my life 21 diets, maybe more, not maybe for sure more, but I remember 21 diets. So I started to develop this like really crazy relationship with food. And at some point I decided to stop diets and eat whatever I want. And so if I want chocolate, I eat chocolate. If I want bread, I eat bread. But I follow my hunger. And I realized that Oreos, I really don't like them. But I think now talking to you, I realized that I was almost on automatic mode because my entourage told me that Oreos make you feel better. Oreos are good. Oreos are the reward. But once I use my conscious and my own senses and realize, no, it's not what I like. So few things like that.
Yeah, to build on what you're just saying, Marilyn, I've been working in the chocolate industry
Oh, really?
as a
Yeah.
marketing director for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And for example, in the chocolate and ice cream and biscuits, so all the sugared confectionery and chocolate food has a regressive, emotional, reconforting
What do
layers.
you
That
mean
means
by
that whenever you
regressive?
eat something that is sweet, first, it creates addiction. You want more of it, so you don't get saturated. And the second thing is that it connects you with your childhood. So the more you have emptiness in you emotionally,
Yeah. Yeah.
the more you will eat those the sweet food that will make you like release the tension and feel it's sweetening your inside somehow.
Mm.
So it's not an issue if you have, you know,
Yeah.
couple of pieces of chocolate, of pralines, it's okay. The thing is when it's too much, when you're not even thinking, I mean, I've seen people eating a whole bar of chocolate in 15 minutes in the evening after dinner without even being aware of it. That's it. Just because
Yeah.
you're watching, you know, a series or movie, and if you're not conscious, like first, I always say for eating, you need to have the healthy food. You need to shop the healthy food, and you need to have a balance. This is my philosophy, and it worked for me at least as tips. I always have at home. So I have a boy, so I have a family. So it can't be only healthy food. So life food has to be healthy and tasty. So it needs to be a combination of nutrition and pleasure. So I have this rule of buying 80%, the 80-20 rule, 80% of healthy food available at home, and only 20% that is more pleasure. The 80% are the ones that are visible. The 20% are the ones that you need to look after, or it's not easy accessible. So whenever you feel this like compulsive eating, which is also natural because we're not perfect. I mean, we're not saying here that you need to be 100% on conscious mode. This is not possible. We're human. That means that we have ups and downs. We have hormone stuff. So that means that just putting the intention of being as much conscious as possible beside the automatic modes versus being 100% on automatic mode. So whenever you go to your kitchen and you see in front of you, you open the fridge and see yogurts and fruits and vegetables, you will get more of that, especially if you're on automatic mode. But if you open your fridge and you see a pudding and you see a tiramisu, industrial ones, you know, many people buy that. of course, this is what you're gonna eat. So it starts from being conscious of, am I shopping the good things for me? And then do I want it in this moment? So really two questions. So it's really stopping and asking yourself before having a coffee, before having an excessive amount of coffee, an excessive amount of sugar, of carbs. It's not about making restrictive diets. No, because I believe also life is pleasure. And part of the pleasure is this balance between I let go and I give myself permission and I'm conscious. So consciousness doesn't mean that I need to be under control and controlling myself. No, it just means that I'm checking with myself and I'm asking myself questions during the day. And I'm shopping consciously, I'm educating consciously, I'm trying to have conscious conversations. Coming back to your question about how parents, the role of parents. So parents, whenever they are with their children, and I include myself, we need to give quality time to our children. We are not a lot of time with them, mostly in the morning and in the evening. During the day, most of them are at school, except the very little ones. So in those moments, if we don't give this quality time, and quality time requires to slow down, requires to be present, requires no phone, no TV, just be with the children, asking them questions. Because if you are on your phone, the child will be on the phone. If
Yeah,
you're
that's
speaking
true.
to him without looking at him, the child will do the same because we are their center, we are their example, we are their God. So if we don't start from us, we can be sure that this generation and the following was is completely lost.
Yeah, it's so true. So I'm thinking, for example, I have someone I know that their life became so overwhelming that they're telling me I can't open this box because everything will explode. You know, this inner box, if you want, my inner self. Even like I can't stand silence. I always put TV on and everything. So just to forget everything. How can we so I will ask my question it's the same question if you want, but it's in two angles. If you want, the negative angle is is the impact of automatic mode on life, but also it could also mean what's the positive of conscious, the consciousness in those life. Because, for example, those people, they might be thinking, I can't do that. It's like everything's going to explode if I become more conscious and I can't deal with that. So what can we tell them?
Probably simplifying the words, because I think that the word consciousness, and
Yeah,
can be very scary, and it's very much linked to psychology, and psychology. We didn't actually we didn't get taught psychology, so most people, what they don't understand, they don't want to open it. So I would go more for things very easy, like what would be something you would love doing? What is something you're missing in your life in this moment? What provides you with joy? Is there anything you can do in this moment that can boost your energy, provide you with joy? So in my case, I discovered over the years very what I call like little sensorial
mm,
structures that allows you to just basically boost your energy, natural energy, and it has to do with the senses. So giving you some examples, very easy thing that anyone can do and it's free. You don't need to pay for it. That's an important one.
yeah,
Access to balance and access to well-being does not require to pay
yeah,
necessarily for it. So in my case, for example, I use, so I have like, every day I'm really activating my five senses in a way that it resonates with me and it connects with me. Basically, very easy, very simple, very simple. I like to simplify. Otherwise, when it's becoming mental, people don't,
yeah,
they are saturated mentally. So I
yeah.
understand that people can't add something. If they see it as an extra task, they will not do it. So it can be, so I will give like 5 examples. One is having, I have a box with pictures of close people that I love, pictures of me, of my husband, of my son, of my parents, my brother, my nephews, that I can just, at any moment of the day, I can open, just look at them and smile. This is number one. Very important to have things that make you smile, make you feel satisfaction, but energetically. So we're not in the mental, we're just on the energy and well-being and the joy. I would call it the joy, our natural joy. We have it inside, but we forgot how to activate that joy. So that's so important. The second one would be music. So having a playlist with your favorite music, but the ones that really make you smile. I have an indicator for me that anything I see, I smell, I hear, and I taste that makes me smile, but not the smile of, wow, I love it, because it's a driver, it's something I love, and it's something that the children have and the adults we lost. So children, they can be happy playing with anything close to them because they know this is magic for them. We lost the little things in our life that are magic. So it can also be, so in my case, yeah, I was telling a friend yesterday, I'm Moroccan and I love all the fragrances that are related to sandalwood and orange blossom and musk. So I have them with me. I have them close to me. And I smell them whenever I feel my energy is going down. I'm not going for a cup of tea or coffee.
Oh, nice.
I'm activating my inner energy with my senses. Sometimes in between sessions, I put a boosting music that I love, that is in my playlist, so it's accessible in the moment, and I dance for 10 minutes. I can tell you that this is uplifting much more than a coffee.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Watching at pictures just to remember that you had great time, that you're surrounded with love is so important because we forget it most of the time. Tasting something that you love and you have, the 20% pleasure I mentioned before, I have it every day, but I don't have it all the day. I have it in certain moments. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the afternoon, because our energy is changing. It's not automatic. So even food, even the time of eating, the time of sleeping, we think we are like machines. Okay, I need to eat sometimes we look at the watch and say, oh, it's time to eat. Just this sentence is automatic.
Yeah.
Depends. Have you checked? Do you want to eat now? And what do you want to eat? Maybe you want to just grab something very light, or maybe you want to have a real meal. So it's really, this is what it is about. It's about
even this can be scary for people because the society also put us more on automatic mode. We don't know what hunger is. Some people, for example, like some diets, intermittent fasting, and all those things, like almost ban hunger. They're like, oh, it's bad. So we try not to feel it anymore.
Yeah, that's the issue of being disconnected from our body or emotions, because we grew up completely activating our brain as children, at school, but also at home, and being completely disconnected from what do my body needs? What do my heart needs? We don't have those questions. So you don't know how to read. We don't have the codes to decode what's our body, what do we need in terms of emotions as well. Emotion is more complex. I will stay with the body for now. Because I think that if you're able to start, the first step is to do it with your body. So to listen to your body's needs. And I think that once you're able, it's the first step of consciousness. Once you're able, it's what that gives you access to the rest. It's the first really step. So if you're able to really read on your body needs, energy, well-being, and giving your body what it needs, then it's much more easier to understand the rest, So I will keep it simple for now.
Yeah. And the five senses that you mentioned, it makes so much sense actually, because I feel it's my like that's what I'm thinking now. So I'm not saying it's proven or anything, but people that use food to feel better, they're using one of the five senses, maybe so, which is the taste, to come back to the body because sometimes, you know, they're dissociated. So you said you use your five senses. There's taste, there's vision, which you mentioned, looking at pictures, listening to music. Well, and smell, you mentioned. What do you do with touch for those that like touch?
A big hug.
Right, to yourself?
It could be with myself, could be with my son, could be with my husband, could be with my mom, with a friend. So
If someone is at work and they're really, really triggered and they like touch, what would you recommend?
for people who,
Let's say someone is at work, because I've seen a colleague of mine last
oh, I
week.
mean, that there are many ways to,
Yeah.
actually the touch you can get, for me, we enjoy as much, touching others as they can touch us. So sometimes like just doing something like this, you know, in the elbow of someone.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. Yeah, just to say well done. You know,
Or even,
that's
would you
so
say like
personal. Or
rubbing your
even the
hands?
way you say hello. You know, it's funny because from culture to culture, we say hello differently. In some cultures, you really kiss, you know,
Um,
sometimes in one cheek, sometimes in two cheeks. And in some culture, you hug without kissing. And in some other cultures, you just give the hand. Well, look at the importance of how we connect
mm,
socially with others. And that's why one of the things of the pandemic that really was hard for many people was not being able to get in touch with people. Look at the expression, get in touch. We don't say get in view.
yeah,
We
yeah.
don't say get in listening. We say get in touch. We are social animals. We need to activate our five senses every day. And I
Yeah.
know it's because I'm experiencing it every day. And it's so powerful, so accessible for anybody, and it's free, it's available.
Mm,
The social part, the touch, it can also be like in winter. I love to have those very like soft plates
yeah,
in
yeah.
the sofa. So this is for me very cozy and warm. We know that warmness is bringing emotional comfort. So all these
Yeah.
five senses activations, what they're bringing is emotional and physical comfort. So we are aligned.
So true. They say, I've read in one of the body languages books that if someone, let's say they talk to them, they talk, let's say they do a presentation, whatever, and they start to scratch themselves or whatever, it means that they're trying to comfort themselves.
Could be. Makes
Yeah.
sense. I don't know. I haven't read that
Mm.
tip, but it could be. Yeah,
That-
definitely. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, there are some, yeah, you can do it with yourself, and you can also look at the children.
What do you think?
The children, I mean, children without receiving love through touch
Yeah.
will develop some mental disorders, psychological disorders,
Yeah, it's
because we
just,
need the five senses again. We need it.
it's
So,
true
and the
because,
touch is one of the most powerful because
yeah,
that's the contact, that's the human part, that's the connection with the others, you know?
I
So,
completely agree.
and actually it's proven, you know, the cultures, the Japanese culture, for instance, the northern cultures have higher dissociation, like socially they're much more distant, and they're having a higher rate of suicide. They have higher rates of depressions,
Oh,
not only because of the weather, but also because of the lack of social connection. Social
oh,
connection has to do also with physically being in touch.
well, that's so interesting.
Mm.
Well, this is maybe why some people love massages and things like that. Yeah.
It's emotional recomfort.
Yeah, so
You
true.
can see that massage goes beyond the physical. It's
Yeah.
the physical comfort combined with the emotional component, and because we let go and we are so much under control and tensed most of the time,
Yeah.
because we overthink everything and we're disconnected from our body and emotions, then the massage is the very a big example of an activity that releases all the tensions because you let go and you give permission to yourself to let go.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah.
It's very interesting. And then I guess to end up this episode with practical tips, I know we've given things like, using your five senses, maybe questioning, using those few seconds before doing something and questioning, is it automatic or no, do I want it? Do I need it? Anything else you have, like for people that are at the beginning of their journey?
Slowing down. So
Yeah.
slowing down in the way they walk, like consciously slowing down, moving from jumping from the bed into slowly stretching and going out of the bed and asking themselves, they want to have breakfast first, they want to shower, like just,
Yeah.
it's very nice to start asking yourself questions because you smile actually with yourself. It creates
That's what we're doing now. I feel
it creates a self connection with yourself. And so yeah, that would be one. Especially for people that don't have time, allow themselves self-time. So slowing down, having self-time, because self-time will allow you to have self-care. And self-time can be at least half hour in a day, where you are with yourself and you can slow down and you can do anything you want and you need. So you can have this half an hour could be split it during the day, but at least half an hour to have a walk, to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I
And
love to listen to
if you're not
myself.
able to have a conversation with you because you're too much in the mental, just write it down.
Yeah.
I write every day in the morning. I have my agenda, which is the mental, structured, rational, organized part. And I also have, how do I feel today? How do I feel? What do I need? And the response cannot be in advance. It's in the moment. So if I start the day very tired, I will have a more slowed down day. And because this is what my body asked me for. Otherwise, I will get sick.
And you have days.
If we push our limits, we become sick. And first alert is just a headache. Second alert, it's the backbone. Third alert can be cancer or can be something very big. So the body is the excess. So observing, so slowing down, self-time, because self-time allows you to stop and feel and take notes, look at pictures, smell fragrance, listen to music. This is not done with others. So maybe replacing half an hour of social media with self-time. Just this.
Yeah, that's true,
I have to
actually.
stay with one tip because we have to simplify. People don't have time. So
I love,
half an hour a day makes a big difference.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really nice because you're just replacing. You're not saying to people add something. And is it in terms of people, I'm thinking, is it okay, or should they expect that sometimes they won't know what they feel, what they need, and things like that? Or
Of course, again, we are human. We are not perfect. We don't understand everything. And we have no idea in general in psychology. We don't know. So we need to use our level of awareness, and it's okay as it is. The more we will check with ourselves, it's a journey and it's a trip. So the more you will do it, the more you will get trained, the more you will go deeper. So of course, at the beginning, you will be in the upper part of the iceberg, but then progressively, if you keep doing it, you will discover that the more you go in depth, the more it's magic. But you need to start, like we are the ones that need to decide it. This is the only thing we can't delegate and we can't buy outside.
So true. It's so true. Wow, so interesting. I will link all the information of how people can find you in the show notes. And I was wondering if there's any final word or any final, recommendation for the listeners.
Oh, I would say we all have access to it. It's so powerful to consciously take those like slow time moments to connect with yourself and check with yourself. Remember, is it good for me? Do I want it? Ask questions. and have those 30 minutes a day with yourself. And this is also the example we will give our children. So I think that this deserves, if we don't do it for us, let's do it for our children and the future generations.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Marilyn.